Happy mid-morning, guys. All right, so we get an update to this morning because now it's past 8:30 and we have our economic figures coming out that I talked about this morning. Surprise, surprise, came in completely the opposite of what was expected. Got to give credit where credit's due. Okay, maybe we're getting a tad better, at least in this respect. Okay. Uh, The unemployment rate, the official number, dropped to 3.7 from 3.8. Like I said this morning, Whisper number said we were going up to 4%, and we actually came down, which was a good thing. Okay? Even the U6 number dropped from 7.2 to 7%. That's a good thing. How much of all that is because of seasonal employment, we don't know yet. Okay. But even then, average hourly earnings from month over month actually went up. They were expected to come in at up 2.3% to TO, not TWO, and they came in at 0.4. So that's good. Year over year, earnings are now flat. We'll take that. That's better than a drop. So in that respect, good. Okay. Maybe we're starting to see a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. And I'm not going to try to spin this to a negative or anything like that. No, that's it. This is positive numbers. This is a good thing. Doesn't mean we're out of the woods. It means for 1 month things were better than expected. Hell, at this point, I'll take any time frame of better than expected. Okay. The interesting one that came in, and again, this is going to be pushed, is the labor participation rate. Okay. And what labor participation is the percentage of working age people in the country that are either working or actively looking for work. Okay. In October, we were at 62.7%. We were expected in November to be at 62.7%, and it actually went up to 62.8%. Now, that's a good thing. That means a few more people either got jobs or started looking for jobs. My guess is it's going to be got jobs. This is where the first caveat comes in. And I want you to look at this chart. This is the chart of the labor participation rate for the last 5 years. Now, if you look on the left-hand side, you're going to see that it is higher than we're currently at. You have that big gap about a third of the way over. That's during the COVID lockdowns, okay? Obviously, nobody was going to work. We had a massive drop in labor participation. But this is the first thing to pay attention to. As good as the numbers are that they're going up, which means we're still recovering from the COVID debacle, we still have not got to the point, no matter how much Joe wants to tell us, of as many people working/looking for work as we had before COVID. That's a problem, okay? Because again, you think about what our GDP is based on is the collective of goods and services in the United States. Well, if you have less people working, obviously that means less services. Less people working obviously means less goods produced. Okay. So, yes, while we were on a slow but steady increase, and again, increasing last month, which is good. Okay. We still have not got to the point of where we were before COVID. Or another way of putting it, we still have not got as many people working as we had during the last president. Stop and think about that for a second. All the comments that we hear about how Joe is doing so good. He still hasn't got us to where we were before he started. Granted, COVID's in there. Okay. But so all those people saying that, gee, everybody that lost their jobs over COVID is getting their jobs back, that ain't true. We haven't got there yet. Okay? Give you that. The scarier one, and this one is something to take a look at. You all know what M2 money supply is. Okay. You hear about it talked all the time. Basically, what M2 is the collective of how much liquidity the American public has. So whether that is savings account balances, checking account balances, CDs, money market funds, anything that's short, that's liquid, that you could go to the bank and get out right now, cash on hand. Okay. If you needed that $1,000 for an emergency, you had access for it. This is the scary part. We have now done something we have not done in 90 years. I want you to look at this chart. This is a chart, and this is as far back as there's a chart available that I can find. Okay. This is a chart of M2, how much liquidity the American public has. And you look at that slow but steady growth. And then, of course, you hit 2020, where we had a boatload of liquidity pumped into the economy, i.e. the Fed printing money and giving out stimulus checks. Okay. We still went up. And then all of a sudden, as the stimulus checks stopped, for the first time since 1933, we have had a reduction in money supply. It means the American public has less money collectively, okay? Whether it's, like I said, cash on hand, savings accounts, checking account, money market funds, CDs, or whatever. Anybody remember what happened in the 1930s? Yeah, it was that little thing called, the Depression, okay? Now, we have now had a constriction of M2 for 12 months straight, okay, to the point of over 10%. When money is constricted on a monthly basis of about 2%, we have economic turmoil. It's happened a few times in history. 1878, 1893, 1921, 1931, 32, and 33. You go back and take a look at the health of the American economy, it was in dire straits. Every other time we've experienced the exact same thing we're experiencing now. Okay. We can call inflation, we can call unemployment, we can call whatever as the reason for this. But when we are looking at the American people having less and less and less and less, and the government admitting it, that tells you we have a problem. We do not have a reduction in M2 in good times. Officially, we haven't tipped into a recession, even though it was possible this morning. It did not happen. Unofficially, I think y'all would agree, we have been in a recession here for the last 3 years, roughly, since 2020, okay, since the last year of Trump's presidency. Brought on by COVID, no doubt, exacerbated by the reckless spending of Washington. Whether or not it's Joe's war in Ukraine, whether it's not Joe's war in the Middle East, or whether it's not funding all this stupidity. Okay. Raising interest rates at an accelerated pace. We still hear the stories that the Fed is going to start cutting rates. Okay. I want to explain one thing real quick, and I've tried to many times, but we keep hearing inflation's coming down, inflation's coming down. Okay. Yes, that is true, but it is a real, it's kind of like the term negative growth. Okay. Negative growth means loss. You don't grow negatively, you shrink. Okay. Inflation coming down does not mean prices are coming down. It just means they are not going up as fast as they were before. What we need to get into is a deflationary environment where the prices of things start coming down. Okay. Inflation being at 9% and coming down to 3% is good because, hey, we're not still going up at a 9% rate. We're just not growing as fast. Okay. But prices aren't coming down. Prices are still going up. With M2 going down, the liquidity, the money that you have being less and less and less, and the prices of everything keep going up and up and up. How long does it take? What is your break-even point? Where is your household? This is what the important part is. I care less about what the world looks like. My concern, like your concern, should be, what is your home economic figure? Is your unemployment rate 0? That would be good. Okay. The thing is, eventually we all get to a point where there's more month left than there is money in the bank. Okay. And that's what you're trying to avoid. That's what we prep for. That's why you put this food away. That's why you put the money away. Because when things get to the point where you can't afford them, and we've talked about this, people stepped down from Whole Foods and Trader Joe's and they went to Kroger. Then they stepped down from Kroger and they went to Walmart. They stepped down from Walmart and went to Aldi. And they stepped down from Aldi and went to the dollar store. You stepped down from the dollar store to the food bank. Okay. Eventually, their plan is to bring us all down to the food bank level. Some will get there faster than others. Okay. Jeff Bezos isn't worried about shopping at Whole Foods right now. He's still fine. But you and me, we're somewhere else in that stretch. And eventually the goal is to bring us all down. That's what you see with M2 and money supply coming down. They're taking the money from us. All this, the rich have to pay their fair share. No, that ain't happening at all. What's happening right now, because of the policies we have, is the rich are taking the fair share from everybody below them. If you go back and look, and many times people have talked about, CEOs making 100 times or 1,000 times or whatever the line workers make. True. Okay. Is it way too much? Yeah. Should a CEO make more than the guy sitting there turning a wrench on a line? Yes. Okay, I'm going to say it. Should they make as much more as they do? No. Okay. The CEO is not contributing 1,000 times more to the profitability of a company than the guy who's turning a wrench. But the whole goal is to shrink us all out of existence, to shrink us out of economic existence, where we can't compete, where we can't afford, where we can't do anything. And if you watch all these different things, unemployment, you watch U6, you watch the CPI numbers, the PPI numbers, the M2 money supply, the M1 money supply, anything like that. You start watching it. A lot of it is manipulated. We know that. But certain things are harder and harder and harder to manipulate. And telling you or telling me that things are good is just a lie. All out.